So, okay, we've talked about gang shootings, we've talked about abortion.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something that is perhaps even more disturbing.
Okay.
Gringo Poppy. You and I.
You want some clips,
You
boy.
and I are both friends.
YouTube clips.
We will
What the fuck
explain.
is that?
He and I are both friends of Brendan Schaub.
Yeah, shouts to Brendan.
Former
Love you,
UFC
Brendan.
fighter, current comedian and podcaster. I know you see it. People, for some reason, they want anyone associated with Brendan Schaub to speak out against him because they don't like his comedy special. What is your attitude on
Who
this?
is they to you?
The Redditors.
Yes, he has a Reddit page that is like is massive. And
It will make you scared to have a Reddit.
yeah, and it's like dedicated to just shitting on him, and
Right.
it's really unfortunate because
We
like,
got one too now.
do you guys have the? Yeah,
It's pretty malicious.
yeah, it's an interesting thing because Reddit is fascinating and fucking hilarious, and like they're like creative people on there. And basically what it is it's like your Reddit page is giving thousands of people that might not have their own Instagram or Twitter that's popping
Yeah.
access to a group Instagram that's popping. That's what a Reddit page is.
Right.
So now they have access to 50,000 people or whatever it is, and if they put something out that slaps, it gets views and it gets reactions, and all of a sudden you get to almost feel like you're popping because
Yeah.
your content is crushing. So you're going to keep on leaning into that.
So it incentivizes them to be as mean as
Ruthless as
possible,
possible.
because that's the stuff that rises to the top,
Yeah,
is the shit that's the cruelest.
Exactly. And then you got to be good at like making sure or the mods, I guess, have to be good at making sure that the page is healthy, because at the end of the day, like, you don't want that page to take away from the content. And I think that's unfortunately what's happening with The Fighter and the Kid. Like, they have a fucking great podcast. Like, they're hilarious together. Like,
Right.
Brian and Brendan are fucking hilarious together. And Brendan's like a really great dude. He's a genuinely sweet dude who helps people. He's the reason I got on Rogan. Like, he was like, yo, you got to get this guy on. This is before anybody was fucking looking at my shit. Like, and that really changed my life. So he's actually a great dude. And he's just getting destroyed by that thing. I told him to lean into it. I was like, bro, you got to sell merch. Like, anything that they do about you, you got to lean in. And then I thought that they would appreciate that in one way. They're like, oh, okay, he's not ignoring and acting like this thing isn't happening. He's like taking part of this thing.
His Reddit is so fucked up that, like, they've made it their mission to expose him cheating.
That's where it's like, yo, you going into the personal life. That's wild, man. That's,
Are they? So they're like that deep into his life where there's people probably following him around,
getting like security cam footage and shit,
It's
right?
different.
What
It's
the
different
fuck?
when you have a group of people who are basically commenting on the stuff that you're putting out into the world, and it's
Yeah.
different when they become basically like a large league of private investigators who are gonna like overturn every rock throughout your life and find everything that they could possibly do, because that's kind of where his shit is at.
Yeah. I mean, you know Brendan, like, you guys are close or what?
Well, we did the interview, but
Oh, that's all you know.
I'm totally honest. I saw the first 6 or 7 minutes of the special.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel like I could handle too much more of it. I think he's a good guy. I'm not like a big fan of his comedy, but I mean, I fuck with a lot of people where I don't really like their rapping.
Yeah.
And we're still cool, right? Like, that's not the entirety of who you are as a person. 80 is a just fine rapper. Do know you.
What I
That's
say?
all.
The nigga looked at me. I'm like,
I don't like Josh's raps. I still fuck with him.
he's a man, and he's with your sister.
Right, and
This is true.
his raps about her are horrifically offensive, and I advised him
got
not to drop the Hash Brown Town K mixtape because of that. So, I mean, you cannot be a huge fan of somebody's art and also think that they're a good dude, right?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, comedy is like anything else. You like get better at it if you put the time in. So
Right.
like, I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, Brendan's like very early into his comedy career. Like, I told him, I was like, I think you put like, even when he did that first special, I think it was just too early. This shit takes a while, bro. Like, you need, I mean, most people say like a decade before you're like starting to get nice.
Fuck.
Yeah, bro. I mean,
No wonder I suck.
You're only 22.
I fucking suck.
But hey,
Nah,
how much
you're
stand-up have
early,
you done?
man.
I've done like 5 shows.
Yeah, but
Within the last, but that's not even enough. Like, he's like, when
I was
we're having
doing
a
back in New York when I was coming up. I was doing like 12 a week.
Yeah. I've kicked it with him
14
in
a
that
week.
environment, and we're
Yeah.
talking like 5 years ago, where I was watching him just do sets and just kick it backstage with the other comics. And me as a non-comedian, I'm seeing that and realizing like, oh, this is how people get really fucking funny as they spend fucking 6 hours a night kicking it with other comics backstage, getting on stage, seeing what works, seeing what the audience feels with. It's like fucking boot camp for learning to be funny on camera.
Because a lot of times you have these ideas, you just don't have the tools to execute them. So you like have these premises that are really funny, but you just can't make them funny yet because you don't have the skill set. And then eventually you develop those skills by just constantly working on it. So like some of your earliest premises, like some of my earliest ideas could have been my funniest. I just didn't know how to fucking do them just yet. And that just takes years. And like, because you can only practice that shit on stage. That's the weirdest thing about comedy. Like guitar, you could just play all fucking day in your garage. Stand up, you got to be in front of people, and you got to be good to be in front of them for a long time. So right now you're doing 5 minutes at a time. Imagine learning guitar 5 minutes at a time. How long would that take you?
You probably bomb a lot too.
Oh, in the beginning for sure. Especially if you do humor like mine. Like I don't go up there, give it up for God. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to take almost like the least likable point of view and then create a fucked up argument for it. That's what I get off on.
But I think that's where social media kind of, like, you feel me? Because I was already doing my shit on social media. So when I started this shit, people already expected me
Yeah,
to
you had fame before you even developed the skill.
Exactly.
And that's where it's very difficult. You
Yeah.
know? And that's honestly where Brendan was. Is like Brendan got like famous. He had one of the biggest podcasts on the planet. Like, especially when that whole podcast is seen in LA, was blown the fuck up. So it's like it takes time to develop, man, and work.
But from your perspective, if you were in his position where you were already famous for something else with the UFC shit, would you have intentionally chose a slower career path to maybe like gradually build up to that? Because I feel like just getting like dumped into the fucking
I didn't even let my
deepest
friends
water,
see me.
it's gonna be tough.
Coming up in stand up, I didn't even let my friends come out and see me. I didn't let my family. Nah, like I want to be nice. Like I'm the funny one with you guys. I'm not about to let y'all see me be whack. You know what I mean? Like I need to like go grind, get good at this, dedicate my whole fucking life to this, and once I'm good, then people can start coming.
Did you have a ton of insecurity about it early on?
Insecurity in what way?
And I mean, for me, if I was going to be forced to go get up on stage and tell jokes, I would be, nervous as fuck. Whereas when I get out there to do a live podcast with them, I don't give a fuck at all. That's super natural to me. Whereas feels like there's so much pressure and scrutiny on somebody when they're doing a comedy set, even if there's only 50 people watching.
Yeah, I wasn't insecure to the point where like of maybe talking in front of people, if that's what you're asking. But I was insecure about how I did. Right. I had high expectations. I never looked at it like insecurity, but I looked at it as just expectations. Like I know how funny the funniest person is because I've watched them. Like I saw Patrice O'Neal. So I'm like, how do I become that funny? So, and I knew the discrepancy between where I was and where he was. And it was just like every day, how can I get better? What can I do to get better? Like constantly listening to my set, watching the sets over, like really trying to feel out that interaction and what I'm doing wrong, why there's no connectivity. Like, yeah, I never felt like I can't do this, if that's what you're asking. I never felt like I wasn't supposed to do this or wasn't like born to do it.
If you were coming up as a funny guy in New York City at this point, though, do you think that you would think that stand-up was as big a part of the recipe? Because now a lot of comedians, you see that they have a podcast dropping a couple times a week, and then you know that they're doing stand-up or whatever, but that just, it seems like that's almost moved into the backseat role in terms of importance. Is that true, or is that just my opinion?
Because like we all did podcasts so we could do stand-up.
Right.
Like,
but then at a certain point, it starts to feel like the stand-up or the podcast is the real product.
I haven't experienced that yet, but that's just because like my stand-up footprint is probably internationally bigger than my podcast.
Really? Okay, because I look at Flagrant as being so big that I would assume that it kind of is bigger than the stand-up stuff.
Yeah, it's wild.
Hard
like,
to compare.
No, like I don't know. Like as far as like stand-up goes, like, and again, my stand-up's on YouTube, so YouTube is the world. There's a lot of people that are watching the clips, and it's like stand-up is so much more digestible. It's like I'm putting a 3-minute bit out there. Everybody got 3 minutes. You might not have an hour for the pod. Now, the pod has been awesome, and we've experienced this like insane growth. So, and there's just so few pods that are that size that you see it and you're like, oh shit, this is is the mountaintop or whatever the fuck, right? But at the same time, stand up for me is always the passion, and then podcast was this way to like galvanize those supporters, right? and then create like a watering hole for everybody to come to, rock with you every single week. How often can I put stand up out? I don't know, but I know I could talk shit with my boys, which I love
every
doing.
day.
Bang. So it's like, this is a great place for all the fans to go. Like, you guys created this no jumper world, right? It's like literally your universe. And it's like, this is a place where people who are interested in this stuff, they get to come, they get to hang out. When you guys want to put out your music, when you want to put out, live shows, when you put out merch, whatever like that, there's a place where they could all come back to. So that's what I always saw the podcast is like, this is the super, super fan. Nobody hates you for 2 hours. You know what I mean? Like, they gotta fuck with you to listen to you for 2 hours.
To me, the super fan is the one who's actually going to travel to go see you tell jokes in front of 50 people in a basement
Real
somewhere.
shit.
That's some real super fan shit,
That's why for me, like, the greatest validator is the live show. I think that's what separates people. It's like, if you could do a live show, if people get a babysitter, they put on fucking clothes and they come out to see you, like, that to me is success. You know what I mean? Like, there's numbers. Like, a lot of people are on TV shows. They might be on, sitcoms or SNL or these types of things. They don't really know how many fans they got because the institution has fans. You know what I mean? Like, there are players on the Knicks that I like because they wear the Knicks jersey. And then they get traded and I can give a fuck. Right. Because I like the Knicks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, there are a lot of people that they think they're as famous as the institution, but when you're on the road, you find out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, can
Real
you
shit.
sell out? Like, there are musicians we all know can't sell 3,000 tickets.
That's real shit.
But
It's a lot.
you might think they're the most famous. They go do these festival shows and looks like the whole world is there. They do one show with them, they can't get 3,000 people out. So it's like, if I'm doing 12,000 tickets in a night in New York, right? Like, that, there's a small group of people that can do that on the planet.
You 12,000
shit.
for your stand up in New York
We
when you
did
do
Radio
big
City
shows?
twice.
Wow.
So that's like, so for me, that's why I'm saying, like, with the stand-up, it's
12,000.
Yeah,
I know this is a boring question that you probably answered a million times, but what the fuck does that feel like? That's such, like,
It's awesome.
compared to doing comedy for 50 people where you can look them all in the eyes, there's got to
Let
be
me show
something
you.
about 12,000
Let me show you the
that
fucking
just
coolest thing.
blows your
Imagine you
mind.
grew up in New York and like you're looking at Radio City every single fucking week when you're walking up,
Yeah.
and then you get to do, look at this shit.
That's how I felt watching Billy Joel sell at Madison Square Garden.
This is the elevator, comes from under the stage.
Yeah, that's player.
Wow. Does it feel different, or does it feel kind of like just good either way?
I mean, that moment where you're coming out,
Oh, that's fire.
You're like fucking Axl Rose, dude.
right? That shit,
Wow.
bro, that was
Fucking,
just
when's your
such
next
a cool
special?
thing. It's
I mean,
it's
Just put
coming
the
out.
first one out.
No, it's not
not
out
the
yet.
first one, but
I
it's
don't
not
know
out
when
yet.
this is coming out.
Put it on
but-
Tubi.
Oh, because you guys were all
Say what?
talking like you had
2
already
weeks is
seen it. I was
No.
thinking, I'm like, damn, I fucking didn't watch the special, but I thought you were saying it was already out.
No, I'm
No,
just
he
posting
dropped clips. He
from
dropped
it.
clips.
Yeah.
No, but when are you doing the live one?
I gotta write some new jokes.